talk a good game where it's just finished. West Ham United 3, Manchester United 2. A fitting send-off to the Boleyn, shall we say. Oh, unbelievable scenes, unbelievable scenes. We're joined this evening by Charlie and Scott, and we have a lot to talk about. Let's just start quickly. There's a bit of trouble outside the ground before the game, Scott, and I saw you tweet a couple of times about it. Do you think the game should have gone ahead as normal at 7:45, or, you know, should it have been delayed like it was in the end?
Originally, I was tweeting about it because I didn't realise what had gone on. So I was annoyed about it. I thought, they should have turned up on time. They've got a history of doing it. But when they saw what had gone on, yeah, I can understand why you'd got a bit of time to get it together.
Yeah, because I was the same because they were late for the Spurs game, obviously. Charlie, a bit unsavoury scenes outside. What did you make of it when you saw it?
I think it's a shame that the day will be partially remembered for people lobbing stuff at a bus. I think it's kind of a shame. With the amount of people that were there in the atmosphere before the game, I think it was probably bound to happen. But I think it's a massive shame, like I said, that such an incredible day will be partially remembered by a lot of people for the trouble that happened before the game, and obviously any retrospective punishment that the FA decided to dole out.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate start, but we're trying to think about it because we didn't want it to really take away from the occasion, because unfortunately a lot of people would have, obviously tried to spoil it for an occasion such as tonight. Anyway, besides the point, the team sheet. Me and Charlie were speaking about this the other day, Scott, on the review for Swansea, and we said we would be tearing our hair out again if we saw Antonio at right back. Were you tearing your hair out today when you saw Antonio at right back, seeing as the way that Martial dealt with him in the cup?
Yeah, I've said it before, and here I like Antonio. I think he's a good player, and I think when he's going forward, we look a threat. He's not a defensive player, and it just annoys me sometimes that we bought a right back playing.
Yeah, I'm worried maybe for Byram next year. I don't know, because obviously we're out looking for another right back apparently, according to sources. Were you again? Is that annoyed? Because I know you were tearing your hair out the other day, Charlie. Was that the same for you?
It's difficult because, of course, Byram, when the rumours were originally going around, it was always, we're buying him for the future. We're buying him for the future. He's someone we're looking at to take this team forward in the future. And so I think I'm not worried about Byram's future as such. I think that if you look at Antonio's trajectory of getting into the squad, Slaven Bilic didn't play him a lot, but then once he came in and proved himself, he continues to play him. And so I'm not worried about him, but especially if we've got Europe next year, then we're going to have way more games and he's going to get way more chances. However, I think today we could have started with Tompkins, and I said this at the time, and maybe it would have been a bit of a better decision, but it worked out well in the end, I guess. So,
Yeah. Start of the game, Scott. That atmosphere sent chills down my spine. Maybe a little tear to the eye as well. How did that make you feel in that moment, hearing the bubbles ring out? Because it was deafening, wasn't it?
It's great to hear, and I wish they'd do it more at home. But when you go to away games, that's the kind of atmosphere you get all the time from the fans, and it's something that we need to do more, especially in the new stadium that we're going to. It's a lot to fill, and a lot of that sound is going to go straight out. So we need to get on it. But yeah, no, it was fantastic. Everyone got behind the team.
Yeah, I'm surprised because obviously Swansea at the weekend, it was only a couple of bubbles. I thought there'd be a similar atmosphere, but everybody seemed to be up for it tonight. Great, fantastic start to the game, wasn't it, Charlie? 10 minutes in, beautiful ball from Lanzini, cut back. Schneidlin, no idea where he went, but a deflected finish, but still a great finish nonetheless from Sacco.
Yeah, it was. And to pick up that point in the atmosphere very quickly, I was sitting in a Man U supporting pub, and I couldn't hear anyone over the top of how loud the fans actually were. It was an incredible thing. And yeah, we saw quite a few cutbacks and people just not knowing where they were today, but it was the first one, and although it was deflected, and maybe you could argue that De Gea would get there if it hadn't of, I'm not going to complain.
We had a couple of chances straight after that, Scott. There was one where Blind, Rojo, Smalling, I don't know what happened, but the seas parted for Andy Carroll and he was through on goal. he didn't look confident, did he? When he took the strike, you almost thought it was going in, but he just didn't look confident, did he?
He did. It was our England centre back, weren't he? Thinking he could take Noble out and coming straight out of position and leaving it all open. But no, again, I'm trying to stay positive here. I'm not a Carroll lover, and as soon as he went 1-on-1, he's good at his headers and he's good at his snapshots and what have you. But I'm trying to stay positive with him. I weren't confident he was going to put that away, and neither were he.
I know, when I saw you on the tag this evening, I thought, please, Andy, don't miss one tonight because Scott will berate you. I thought. Sorry, go on.
I just think it's. I know you're going to go on to the other one, the other miss later on, but at half time we could have had that wrapped up, and that would have been easier. And now we sit back and we're all relaxed because we won the match, but that could have been one hell of a miss by an unstoppable striker they keep telling us about.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into that. Sorry,
sorry, not to butt in, although I did. Andy Carroll, we've seen he can do it. He did it against Leicester last year, where out of nowhere he just tore through and then lobbed Kasper Schmeichel like he wasn't even there. But he should have finished that, and it's ridiculous that he didn't. But he has the ability to. I will stick up for him slightly. He does have the ability to, as he has done in the past.
I mean, the thing is, he did it against Chelsea, didn't he? Where he was through a 1-on-1 with Courtois, albeit he scuffed it. But I thought, it was a similar chance to that. All he had to do, because De Gea had come so far out of his goal, he had to take one step round the keeper and finish it, like he did against Courtois. Again, he scuffed it, but he should have been doing better there, especially because we're bigging him up as this big striker week in, week out. He needs to be taking chances, not just with his head, but with his feet as well. Had the Antonio corner, which came out, but we were playing with such an intensity, weren't we, Charlie, when the game came out? The fans were fully up for it, and I haven't seen that intensity for ages. And to be fair, we should have probably played like it at Swansea at the weekend. Like we said, we're still fighting for Europe. Was it good to see that intensity from the start?
It was, and as Scott said, we could have been far away in the first half easily. Man United didn't really stamp any sort of authority on the game until about 35 minutes in or so. We were absolutely rampant, and we really should have been 3-0 up quite easily. And it reminded me a lot of those performances we had earlier on in the season against big teams like Liverpool and Man City, where we would come out and just blitz them really quickly, and they couldn't handle that intensity. And it reminded me of that, and I have no doubts that the fans were a big part of that, but it was absolutely fantastic to watch.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. And I'm surprised we didn't come out like that against Swansea. I really wasn't. But United's got back into the game, a bit more pressing, Scott, but they didn't really look very threatening in the final third, did they? They had a few half chances, but there was nothing coming from the likes of Rooney or people like that. Is it weird to see Rooney playing so deep nowadays? Do you not think he would be preferable pushed up a bit further like he was in the second half?
I think he's better. He's playing behind. I think it was Terry Sheringham spoke about it. Playing behind the striker. I think that's his position. I think he has to come deep to get the ball. And basically, he's getting older now. And the pressing game that we played was absolutely fantastic. He's not getting a lot of time on the ball. They didn't get a lot of time on the ball. And it showed. It's just pure emotions came out on our side. And we were at them. And it just shows that, the team that's won the Premierships plays that way. Just get at them. Don't give them any time on the ball.
No, yeah, I completely agree with that. Were you nervous at that point, Charlie? Because we had 10 chances to 1 at half-time, and Payet scuffed an unbelievable shot. All he had to do was bend it into the top right-hand corner, and he's just scuffed it right into where the United fans are sat.
Yeah, to be fair to him, it does bobble up a little bit, but someone of Dimitri Payet's quality should be hitting that. It shouldn't be so concerned about bubbles. But I was very worried. I think that we all of a sudden we looked like we didn't have it took to get back into the game at all. Man United for about the 10 minutes before the first half ended, and about 10-15 minutes into that second half, were completely dominant. And they got a goal back, and I really wasn't sure. I knew that we had it. I knew that we had the ability to do it, but as it was the same feeling I had when we were facing Swansea. Like, I think that probably made me a little bit more nervous, but just the idea that we didn't look like we had it capable of getting back into that game like we had shown so many times before in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I was very nervous at half-time because we didn't take our chance against Swansea, and we've had 3 or 4 glaring opportunities and we've taken none of them. And I thought at half-time, if they change the system, we could be in some serious trouble. So second half, again, we came out, didn't start the second half very well, Scott. Martial's goal, great little run from Rashford, just a simple through ball and to Mata and a cutback into Martial. Did you think that we were about to throw the game away at that point? Because United were just coming at us wave after wave.
Yeah, I mean, Carrick was the big change, weren't it, for their part? It made a big difference to the game. It was almost like, they said to themselves, listen, we've weathered that. We can go on and we can nick a goal back, and that's what they did. But again, through our weak spot on the right back, those gaps that keep appearing behind him.
Yeah, I've got a couple of bits down for that in a second. But we had another chance through Dimmy. Charlie wasn't great, didn't finish it very well. But United were just getting back into the game. They had great build-up play. Scott mentioned about Carrick there. I'd actually put down about they're just, as a team, they look so much more composed at times, don't they, when Carrick's in the team? Schneiderlin not so much, but Carrick can really run a midfield.
Yeah, he's to use the old phrase, he's a midfield general. He's incredibly composed on the ball, and Schneiderlin is very good at breaking up the play, but he's not as calm and collected as Carrick is. And when he came back in, all of a sudden there was this presence in midfield that they just didn't have before then. I think that the problem is he's getting on, and I just don't know if he still has the legs to carry on at that level like, I don't know, younger players do.
I mean, we were linked with him, and I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to signing him, because I, for one, think that he can still offer quite a lot. I think he's very good in the middle. I mean, some people may disagree with that, but Scott, the corner, or is it a ball? I think came in from Dimitri. I think it was a corner, and Carroll headed it off the line. Is that the good thing about Carroll, because he possesses those different qualities? If he can't get it done on the ground, he has that aerial threat from him where he's so deadly. Come on, you can talk good about him. It's all right. You can say one positive thing about him.
Yeah, he has. I've always said it. He's got potential. He's shown it in the past. And you've got to play a certain way to his strengths, and I don't think we do a lot of the time, to tell you the truth. To give him an easier ride, I don't think we do. And but if you play to his kind of way, it's not the kind of football I like to watch. But you'll get you a goal or two. Might cost you £1 million a goal, but he'll get them for you.
I mean, yeah. Euro 2016, Scott, for Andy, or no?
No.
No?
No.
Charlie, you seem to be laughing. No to you as well?
I'm just laughing at the concept of asking Scott that question. It's like earlier in the season asking Scott about Mark Noble. I think Andy Carroll offers England something that no one else does. And if you're coming up against a defence where if you play a decent ball, let's be honest, no one can cope with him in the air a lot of the time. And so I think he offers something different, and I think for that personally I would take him, but that's not necessarily because I think he's so much better than everyone else at anything, but it's just because he offers completely different and something that no other player in England really has.
Me personally, I probably wouldn't take him, because I think that Vardy and even Sturridge, Rooney, everybody, they're probably way ahead. Maybe not Rooney, but there are certainly 3 strikers definitely ahead of him. And I just think he's not suited to England. He's been out of the team for so long, and I don't think that he would fit really with Roy. And Roy's a bit of a bell end anyway. So, anyway, Martial's goal, Charlie. We talk about it on the tag on Swansea. We've been caught on the counter-attack. Antonio is up the pitch. All Martial has to do is have a little ball through from Rashford, and he's come in. Randolph's made a horrible mistake. I mean, he's thought the cross was coming in, and Martial's managed to sneak it into his thing. But take nothing away, great finish. But Antonio, again, he's just attacking all the time, isn't he?
Yeah, and again, as I said against Swansea, I don't think it's entirely his fault. I think the players in front of him have a lot have a lot of blame to take for that as well. I mean, we played Moses ahead of him against Swansea, and that was a mistake because Moses has the defensive way of me. We played Saka in front of him today, and Saka, for all the work rate in industry he does have, when he is playing on the right, he naturally drifts central and more forward because that's where he's used to playing, and so that leaves just acres of space down that right-hand side, and acres of space for one of the best European young European players in Martial to just run directly in behind Antonio all day long. And yeah, as you say, Randolph was expecting the cross. He's sort of shifting his weight one side to expect that, and then Martial just pumps it in at the near post. I was effing and jeffing in the pub, but I mean, it's brilliantly done by Martial, and he's a very special player, to be honest.
I agree with that. I think Martial has got all the tools to become world class. He just reminds me so much of Thierry Henry, the way he's got such composure for such a young kid. Obviously, I mean, I wasn't around to watch a lot of Thierry Henry, only being 20 years old, but videos that I've seen, that same composure that he has, he is on another level for such a young age. I mean, he's 20, I'm 20, I'm sat doing this, he's scoring goals at Upton Park. So, anyway, at that point, we're probably thinking, Scott, that like my dreams, they fade and die. I don't know, where do we begin for this? I mean, Payet misses a free kick from 35 yards, comes back, collects it, sticks the ball over. We've just criticised Antonio. Well, not criticised, but for going forward. What an unbelievable header to squeeze that past De Gea, leaning back as well, wasn't it?
He's exceptional with his head. And I know we've criticised, well, not so much criticised, I think he's been given a bit of a bum deal being put at right back. In the areas where we want him, he's up front, up that wing, and he delivers. And I like him because he's like a Duracell bunny. He just goes and goes and goes, doesn't he? And it doesn't know when he's beaten. And that to get that header on target was just fantastic. Just to sort of bring it back, and yeah, no, I love the guy.
Yeah, I think we all do. I mean, Payet got signed of the season, but for me, it is Antonio 100%. He's had to step up big time from where he's played, and he's just fit in so well. Such a better player than Moses as well. Well, 80 seconds later, again, we thought this the other day for Swansea that the comeback was on. Did you think at that point, Charlie, before we move on to the goal, did you think at that point that there was no way we were walking out of there with a draw? It was just going to be a win for us?
Again, the momentum had completely shifted, and what I was bricking it and sitting there and unable to almost look. And once Antonio put that ball in the net, all of a sudden that atmosphere and that crowd roar just happened, and I was like, oh, the momentum's gone again, and it's shifted completely the other way. We were on the attack, we were breaking, and it's again like Scott just said, Antonio in those forward positions where ultimately we would like him to play is brilliant. He's just the industry he brings is on another level, and it gives everyone a raise because when he's on the ball, we know what's going to happen. We know he's going to take it to these players, and I could not see. The thing is, I say I couldn't see Man United getting back into it, but by the same token, I could just see a mistake happening and them scoring, and I think the entire game just had this sort of. It was a fantastic game for the neutral, I think.
Yeah, great advert for the Premier League if it was the first time he'd ever tuned in. I'll stay with you though, Charlie, for that. Valencia probably may have been lucky to stay on. Had a little dig at Noble, I think it was, over on the wing. 80 seconds later, Payet probably hadn't been seen most of the game. Puts in, and again, an unbelievable ball, and Winston Reid squeezes it past. De Gea fumbles it. I mean, I went nuts. I don't know how you were feeling, but it's almost like a fantastic way to end off, really, wasn't it, with a goal like that and a comeback like that. Yeah,
it was, and like I said, I was sitting in a Man U supporting pub, and so I kind of just burst out laughing. But it was a perfect send off. I think it was a combination of just again that atmosphere, and it was just raised, and it was that period of time between those two goals where just everything was going in momentum, and when Payet stands on a free kick. Although the pressure is there, and obviously we've spoken a lot recently about how occasionally he can mess it up, possibly due to that pressure, but there was just something there, and we'd already seen that if we put in a decent enough ball in that area, we can do some damage, and they were sort of reliant on De Gea a lot, and I think playing people like Daley Blind in defence is probably one of their biggest problems, but Reid, whether De Gea fumbles it or he did as best as he possibly could, I don't know, I couldn't quite see, but it was perfect, and just that release was incredible. Like I said, I could not stop myself from literally bursting out laughing. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
I mean, maybe I didn't laugh. I had the option to celebrate. I wasn't around any United fans. I'm sure Scott was the same. Perfect send off for you, Scott. I know it was a nervy 5 minutes before the end, but there was no way that we were going to be scored on. But was that a fitting send off for you?
It was. I wanted a win. I wanted one of our players to score the last goal at the game, the last game there, and more than anything, just the graft that the whole side put in particular central midfield, just that graft. It was a really good fitting to send us off from such a great ground.
I think it was the most fitting send-off you could possibly have, and I think it's testament to Slav actually during that game. He never changed any subs right up until we went 3-2 ahead. He was quite happy to, if we lose, I'll take the blame. He was quite happy to have the belief in everybody today that we'd come back and win that game. And we did make some subs towards the end, but by that point, I'm pretty sure there was no way that we were going to lose from that point on. Quickly talk, Mike Dean, don't think had a bad game, but talking for man of the matches, Charlie, who have you gone for this evening?
I think probably. Do you know what? Scott will hate me, but I'm going to say Mark Noble. I think he just, for the last game at the Boleyn, I think obviously he is Mr. West Ham and he represents everything, but just like him and Antonio just have that industry and belief and work rate that very, very few people can match. And he was continuously moving up and down, and even up till the end when we were 3-2 ahead and we were sort of clinging on, trying to defend. There was one bit where he collected the ball, turned, and then just simple flicks and passes past people, and it was. I'm going to say Mark Noble, half out of sentiment and half just because of the work rate.
Scott?
For me, it has to go to midfield, doesn't it? So here you go, Charlie. Mark Noble decided it straight away. The lad frustrated the bloody hell out of me at the start of the season with silly passes and what have you. But he's been around players that are starting to play and it's rubbing off. And they've got a belief in him and he's got more of a belief in himself now. His work rate recently has been fantastic. And in particular, this game, he didn't stop running. He didn't stop niggling, doing them dirty little bits that, certain players have to do. So yeah, definitely Mark Noble.
I want to go differently from the two of you. I do think Mark Noble had a brilliant game, but for me, I mean, a special mention maybe Payet 2 assists was quite apart from that. I thought the defence played a lot better than Swansea, but for me, check Kouyaté. I saw him everywhere tonight, and I do think that Mark Noble was up there. Don't get me wrong, I think he was up there, but for me, Kouyaté was just if you're always around the play, whether it be a tackle, whether having to run about, and the commentators were very nice to actually recognise him because a lot of people haven't done that in the last few weeks about how much he just does run for this team. And for me, Kouyaté was all over the place this evening, and gets my man of the match. So, little word for I guess the ceremony at the end. If you wanted to tune in to see a load of ex-Hammers being brought back in taxis, then you must have really enjoyed it. It was a weird send-off, wasn't it, Charlie, having them all come back in the taxis, but nice in a way to get all of them back in the stadium.
Yeah, as you said, they clearly don't care about the pitch anymore. They've just had 5 cars drive on it. It was odd, but fair enough. Let's go all London 2012 and get taxis involved. Why not? Just to remind everyone we're going to the Olympic Stadium. But it's always good to see people when you like you said when we were watching it, just seeing Di Canio, it's just like it's in his element, just standing there with the spotlight on him, everyone chanting his name, and it's. I'm still kind of can't believe that we're actually leaving, but
yeah,
it's happened.
Scott, last question before we finish. I'm going to put you under pressure here. The other week for Tag, you spoke about Europe. Now, if we beat Stoke at the weekend, obviously we'll have secured our place for Europe. Do you still want it, or is it still you're hoping for a result to go against us on Saturday?
I feel like I'm having my pants pulled down and my ass slapped with these questions. Listen, I'll say it again, and I'm not going to be popular on here. I know I'm not. We had a rubbish season last year and the year before, and we were playing rubbish football. We're starting to play good football. I don't think we're a European side yet. I'd like us to put a few more players together and come at it next year. But having said that, if we're up there and we can make a fight of it, I didn't like the way that we whimpered out of Europe at the beginning of the season. If he's going to give it a go, give it a go and see what we can do with it.
I mean, everybody has their own opinions at the end of the day. I'm hoping we get it, but I'm nervous. But I do think that this summer transfer window is massive. If we're going to go into that competition, we've got to have a very strong squad. And like Scott says, there's no way that he can make the pathetic attempt that he did at the start of the season, because it really was pathetic. Anyway, that is all that we have time for. I'm pretty sure we've sent it off in the most fitting way for the Boleyn. We're 3, I guess, emotional hammers that we've gone, but 3 ecstatic at the result and how it finished. If you want to head over for your latest West Ham news, please visit claretandhue.info. Alternatively, if you want to speak to your fellow West Ham fans, come and find us at hammerschat.boards.net. That's been Scott, that's been Charlie, I've been Tom. Come on, you Irons.